Hey, what's up, Thrive? We believe that each and every one of you guys has a story to tell, a faith to live out, and an impact to make. If this is your first time here with us, dude, what's up? Dude, we're so glad that you are here and here to join us. If this is your first time, I want you to leave a message right over there or down below us, just letting us know that this is your first time. If you don't have access to the chat, be sure to leave a DM at MRC Thrive on Instagram, because we have a free gift that we want to send you just for hanging out with us. In a few moments, one of our worship leaders is going to kick off the night by just leading us in song. And then after that, Johnny's going to kick off our brand new series. And then we'll close out the night by just hanging out in a Zoom call chat and just playing some games and hanging out with one another. With that all being said, come on, let's sing.
how to do something, how to fix something, or how something works. What do? Ask a teacher? Ask your parents? Ask your friends? Ask someone you really know and trust? No! You go to the internet and ask some randos. But I'm not talking about creeps here, I hope. No, I mean the people of the internet! You know, those people who make how-to videos. Because chances are, if you're trying to figure out something, someone on the internet has already figured it out for you. Things like, how do I unsend a text? No. How do I do a winged eyeliner? How do I get rid of the zit by Friday night? How do I get out of gym class? How do I screen cap Snapchat without getting caught? They'll never know. But then there are things in life that don't have an easy fix, that don't have a simple solution, that don't have a how-to video. Things like what to do when you have problems with family, or when it seems like you have no control in your life, or what to do when someone has done something to you. I mean, clearly, they gotta go. The truth is, there's a lot of life that doesn't have a solution you can just find online. So how do you know what to do when you don't know what to do?
Do you ever feel like you're living in two different worlds? There's like your life out there in the actual world with your school and your friends and the band and playing sports, and then there's your life at home. And although we probably wouldn't admit it, isn't it true that we are all way weirder at home? And here's what I mean. And I actually can't believe that I'm actually admitting this, but when I'm at home or working on a project in my garage, most of the time I have Disney music playing. And I know what you're thinking, well, Johnny, you have a toddler. That's totally understandable. No, it's for me. See, Eloise has seen maybe 4 Disney movies in her entire life, so there I am, holding tools, covered in some car grease, looking like I'm auditioning for the role of Manly Man number 3 in the upcoming movie, Tough Guys Who Do Manly Things. Yep, I'm over here singing, let it go, for the 3rd time that day. Now, hold on before you judge me too much, because here's what I know for sure. You do it too. We all act in ways at home that we would never act with our friends or at school or in public, and not only are we weirder at home, but most of us are actually a little difficult at home. Anybody feel me? I mean, think about it. You would never leave your nasty, sweaty socks on the stairs at your friend's house, but you wouldn't think twice about doing it at your own house. You would never talk to your coach the way that you talk to your mom or your stepmom. You would never be as mean to your teammates as you are to your brother or sister. And you probably don't get angry quite nearly as quickly at anybody outside your house as you do to the people inside your house. But how is this possible? I mean, more importantly, why is this possible? Why do we act in 2 completely different ways depending on where we are? Now, there may be a ton of reasons for this, but I think one of the main reasons for me is that I think of my home and my world like everybody else is just living in it. You know what I mean? Like, maybe we don't say it out loud, but we walk in the door and want to know if dinner is something we like. And we complain about going to our siblings' band concert because we have other plans. It's our world and we want it to be our way. But that's not nearly as true anywhere else. Most of us wouldn't go to a friend's house and say, "Ugh, lasagna, I hate lasagna, why would you make that?" We would never tell our coach that we're not coming to the game because we already had plans already, or at least we shouldn't. And even if we get an attitude with people at school, it's never to the level that we get to at home. For some of us, home feels like the only place it is safe to be the realest version of ourselves. The people we live with will, hopefully, still love us even when we're ridiculous. But at the same time, we all tend to be not just the realest, but the worst versions of ourselves at home. No matter what's happening, I ask myself this question: how does this affect me? I mean, think about it. Everything we say or do at home is in response to how that question is answered. How does this affect me? Maybe you would say, my family loves hamburgers, but I'm actually a vegetarian, so what do they go and do? They go out for burgers after the game, and I'm over here trying not to puke eating the black bean version of that stuff. So I make it a point to let everyone know just how bad it is over and over. Or maybe I don't get to go out with my friends because I have to babysit. How does that affect me? Well, it's not fair, so I'm going to give my parents attitude. Or maybe I studied so hard for my test while my sister scrolled through TikTok all night. She got a better grade than me. How does that affect me? Well, she doesn't even deserve that A, so obviously now I'm annoyed with her and I'm treating her that way. What I don't think a lot of us realize as we think about our lives at home is how much of our response to the question, how does this affect me, changes the vibe in our house. And as we respond to how things are affecting us, the people in our house are responding to how we are affecting them. And then we respond to that, and most of us don't realize we're playing a key role in the general feeling of our house. Is this always true? No, but for some of us, we know that we are at least a part of the cycle of tension in the attitude where we live. The question is, what do you do about it? What do you do when things are tough at home, when the mood is off, when you know that you're part of the reason things are tense, but you have no idea what to do about it? Listen, you don't need me to tell you that family is hard. But the good news in all of this is that the difficulty that you face with your family isn't unique to you, and it's been going on for thousands of years. In fact, one of the things I love the most about the real history in the Bible is it gives us a real look at the real people who lived real lives with real problems. And over the next couple of weeks, we're going to spend some time looking at the life of a guy named Joseph. Joseph was one of the most famous people in the first half of history found in the Bible. He's a guy who, just like us, found himself in all kinds of situations where he didn't know what to do. Joseph's story is wild. It's like the most dramatic Netflix show you've ever seen. There are murder plots. He's sold into slavery. He's unfairly put in jail. The story twists and turns everywhere, and the drama just does not stop. We'll get to a lot of that in the next few weeks, but it all starts with the drama in his immediate family. Let me give you a little bit of background. Joseph was one of 12 sons who all had one dad, Jacob. Now, Jacob's story was complicated a little bit. He fell in love with a woman named Rachel, and he worked 7 years to get her. At the wedding, he was tricked into marrying Rachel's sister Leah instead. But Jacob loved Rachel, so he worked for Rachel's father for another 7 years so he could have Rachel. If you're keeping count, that leaves Jacob with 2 wives, and they were sisters. Sounds like a show on Netflix, right? And not only that, but there were actually 2 other women that he married who he also had children with. Then, plot twist, Rachel, the wife that Jacob loved the most, couldn't have kids. And while all 3 of the other women gave Jacob kids, Rachel couldn't, until all of a sudden she was pregnant with Joseph. He was like this miracle baby, and Jacob, his dad, was crazy about him. That means in his family, with 1 father and 4 mother and 12 sons and a handful of daughters, there was some tension. And because it was no secret who the favorites were, this is where we pick up in the life of Joseph. In Genesis 37, we read about how Jacob made a special robe for Joseph, a physical reminder of how much more his dad loved him than the other brothers, and the other brothers despised him for it. At the time, robes were like the newest Jordans, a big deal. That wasn't the only issue, though. Joseph then had this series of dreams. He, Joseph, said to them, his brothers, "Listen to this dream I had. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it." Now, this wasn't your typical dream, and the brothers knew it. This dream wasn't about grain. It was about power. And Joseph was sending a message by sharing the dream. He was saying, "Hey guys, listen to this. I think, I know that I'm going to be more than powerful than you one day. And when that day comes, you're all going to worship me." For a younger brother to say this to his older brothers was not going to fly. The passage keeps going. His brothers said to him, "Do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us?" And they hated him all the more because of his dream and what he said. The vibe was harsh. Joseph's brothers were over his robes and dreams, and then Joseph had another dream involving the sun and the moon and the stars bowing down to him again. It was the same message, but this time it included his parents bowing down as well. And he tells his dad, Jacob, and his brothers, who now hate him even more, not the best move. Can you imagine the tension in this family? 1 dad, 4 moms, 12 boys, a handful of girls, and now the second to last kid, one of the babies, goes around telling people that he's having visions of everyone bowing down to him. Why would he do that? But Joseph wasn't acting in a way that considered any of that. Joseph was behaving like all of us do in our families sometimes, hyper aware of how we are being treated and not really aware of how it affects anybody else. And Joseph's family was the same way. All Joseph's brothers could see was how the whole situation affected them. The unfairness and the injustice. I mean, Joseph receiving the robe that he did was as a gift, was like being given a brand new car when he turned 16, while all of the other brothers had to share their mom's ancient minivan. It wasn't right, and they saw it. And the truth is, these few verses are about way more than some strange dreams in a coat. It's about how the tension in the family was never dealt with. And the tension was left to grow and to grow. And we're still reading about this story today for a reason. Why? To show us that family has always been complicated. To teach us to pay attention to how our actions and even our situations affect the people that we live with. And to remind us that the tension left unresolved will just never go away. It will always escalate to something bigger. Next week, we're going to see how Joseph's escalated to a biblical dumpster fire kind of situation. But till then, what could everyone in the family have done differently? Joseph could have maybe started to see himself as part of the problem, as one person in a large family and not the center of it. The dad could have recognized how his favoritism was impacting everybody. The brothers could have chilled out a little bit on the grudges and gossip about Joseph. Everybody could have ignored Joseph's dreams and not allowed their insecurity to control them. The point is this: Joseph's family drama isn't all that different from our own. And whether you are the favorite one, the angry one, the firstborn, the lastborn, the quiet one, or the one with a gold medal and door slamming, the truth is the same. There is a role that you play in your family. Pay attention to how your words and your actions contribute to the tone and the temperature of the house. Are you improving it, or are you making it tense? Then decide what you want your role to be from there on out. In other words, pay attention to how you affect your family. And then choose how you will treat them. If you're not sure where to begin, take a look at this passage in the letter Paul wrote to the church at Philippi. In some ways, these people worked a lot like family and were trying to figure out how to live together. So in a letter, Paul writes this: "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others. In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus, who, being in the very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant. Being made in human likeness and being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross." Paul is saying, look, Jesus sets the example here. He gave up the privileges that came with being God. He deserved to be treated like God, but didn't require that of people. He chose to serve and have compassion on humans, even when they didn't deserve it at all. And Paul is reminding the Philippian church and us to be that kind of person with those around us. So, $1,000,000 question. How do we do that when we don't know what to do at our own house? We start by paying attention to how we see ourselves. Do we think or act like we're better than people in our house or our family? Maybe. Is that accurate? Probably not. So what would it look like to treat our siblings, our step-siblings, our cousins, or the adults in our houses as equal, or maybe even more important than ourselves? And finally, and maybe hardest of all, we need to invite someone else to speak into how we treat our family. Honestly, it's nearly impossible to see clearly the role that we play in our own family, but others around us can see it. And by asking them, they can help us see ourselves and our families with 2020 vision.
Arms of heaven,
Guys, we're so glad that you decided to join us today. All we have left for the night is we're just going to hang out on a Zoom call chat, and we're just going to play a couple games and hang out together. So you're going to want to look in the chat right next to me, whether there or there, and you're going to see the code and link and password to get into the Zoom call. If you don't see it there, it's also going to be on the screen as soon as I'm done. I can't wait to see you guys there. I'll see y'all soon.